am not a member of the National Council. I am a member of the National Council on the National Council. I am a member of the National Council of Xi Jinping. However, as a member of the president's team, everyone will always assign me a role. I am a member of this role. I am a member of the National Council. I am a member of the National Council on the National Council. In 1998, the Asian financial crisis erupted. Top enterprises in Guangdong faced bankruptcy. The province encountered payment and credit crises. Wang Qishan was nominated by Zhu Rongji, and Jiang Zemin approved his appointment. Wang traveled south to become the deputy governor of Guangdong province, overseeing finance and leading the efforts to manage the financial crisis spreading throughout the province. In the preceding decade, Guangdong had relied on the credit of window companies to borrow hundreds of billions of dollars internationally. After the Asian financial crisis, the primary creditors of Guangdong, located in Japan and Hong Kong, among other countries and regions. The shock was immense, leading to a widespread retreat from foreign investments and demands for Guangdong International Trust, an investment corporation, to repay its overdue foreign debts. However, due to reckless expansion, chaotic management, and poor asset quality, Guangdong International Trust and Investment Corporation was burdened with numerous bad loans and was unable to repay its debts, resulting in severe liquidity and credit crises. The situation at Guangdong Development Bank was similar. Both institutions not only struggled to cover their debts, but also had liabilities exceeding the province's capacity to pay. This crisis was spreading to hundreds of small and medium-sized financial institutions in Guangdong. On his first day in the Guangdong Provincial Government Office, Wang Qishan's first task was to address the urgent debts of Guangdong International Trust and Investment Corporation and Guangdong Development Bank. Amid intense internal debates, Wang Qishan presented a decisive and far-sighted plan to avoid seeking help from the central government and to prevent further chaos in Hong Kong. He proposed restructuring Guangdong Development Bank and allowing Guangdong International Trust and Investment Corporation to declare bankruptcy. This decision sparked significant controversy. Previously, there was an unwritten rule in the international financial community that lending to a window company was equivalent to lending to the Chinese government, making it the safest sovereign debt. International creditors refused to back down, uniting to demand that the Guangdong government assume the debts, threatening legal action and causing a stir. At this juncture, Goldman Sachs chairman Paulson offered Wang Qishan a suggestion. Wang Qishan then decided to hire Goldman Sachs as a consultant to engage in protracted negotiations with international creditors. When the talks reached a stalemate, Wang Qishan demonstrated his firm resolve. In late June 1999, facing the endless haggling from the creditor banks, Wang Qishan announced that the Guangdong provincial government would cease paying interest on loans to Guangdong Development Bank starting July. Confronted with international creditors, who were making threats and demanding to sue the Chinese government, Wang Qishan issued a firm statement: "You can sue me if you want. You can do so anywhere, even in Guangdong province. I'm confident we'll win. If you take it abroad, I'm willing to accompany you." In this intense international game of chess, Wang Qishan emerged victorious. In January 1999, Guangdong International Trust and Investment Corporation, Guangdong Investment, went bankrupt and closed. By December 2000, after arduous negotiations, the Guangdong provincial government and international creditors reached an agreement to restructure Yuhai. Simultaneously, the Guangdong provincial government borrowed 38 billion yuan from the central bank to restructure and close over 800 small and medium-sized non-bank financial institutions within the province. Ultimately, Guangdong's financial stability was secured. Although Wang Qishan earned a reputation as a firefighter, his experience in Guangdong was far from pleasant or successful. His political career faced its first setback, leading to a humiliating departure from the province. The handling of Guangdong investment involved significant conflicts of interest. Due to a lack of attention to communication details, Wang was perceived as arrogant and confrontational, leading to several serious clashes with local officials. As a result, Wang's years in Guangdong were marred by a tarnished reputation and numerous complaints. During this period, Yao Mingshan spent most of her time in the United States, and their marital relationship was strained. Wang began a midlife phase of indulgence, becoming promiscuous. Guangdong's proximity to Hong Kong and Macau, coupled with lax controls on centrally managed officials at the time, allowed Wang, accompanied by Jiao Jianmin, to frequently visit Hong Kong. There, he could experience the capitalist world and enjoy the hospitality of Hong Kong's women. Such arrangements were unsuitable for a formal secretary like Zhou Liang. The intellectually inclined Zhao Liang lacked Gao Jiamin's understanding of human nature. Nevertheless, Wang's tenure in Guangdong helped him form a core team of advisors. For instance, his future chief aide and strategist, Dong Hong, joined his team during this period and remained loyal. Zhao Liang, his longtime personal secretary, also began accompanying him, Guangdong. Many leaders emerged from the Guangdong National Trust and Investment Corporation restructuring team. Liu Kun, then deputy director of the Guangdong Provincial Government Office, later became the Minister of Finance. Jiang Kaoliang, then president of the People's Bank of China Guangzhou branch, later served as the secretary of the Hubei Provincial Committee. Chen Yongxian, then chairman of Guangdong Securities, later became the vice governor of Guangdong. Chen Jixing, then deputy director of the Guangdong Provincial Finance Bureau, later served as the vice chairman of the Guangdong Provincial People's Congress Standing Committee. Many from the Guangdong Provincial Finance Bureau also participated in the restructuring of the Guangdong National Trust and Investment Corporation. Lan Fuan, then office director, is now the Minister of Finance. Zheng Zhenhao, then director of the Administrative Division, became the director of the Document Group of the Intermediate Committee Dispatch Office, and later served as a standing committee member of the Guangdong Provincial Committee. Many of these individuals benefited from Qishan's recommendations and influence. Wu Jizi, who assisted Qishan as a provincial governor's aide, later ventured into business and became a key intermediary between several Guangdong real estate companies and Wang Qishan. In 2000, Zhu Rongji personally appointed Wang Qishan as the director of the State Council's Institutional Reform Office, a position at the ministerial level. Over the next 2 years, Wang Qishan rarely appeared in public, enjoying a period of tranquility. However, his absence from the public eye did not lead to his being forgotten. In 2002, at a critical moment when the real estate bubble in Hainan had completely burst, and the province was struggling to find a new path, the central government appointed Wang Qishan as the secretary of the Hubei Provincial Committee. The people hoped that this seasoned crisis manager could replicate his past successes and create a miracle in Hainan. This was Wang Qishan's first time governing a region. At the outset of his tenure, in fact, he was preparing for a major endeavor. Contrary to the industrial-focused approach of other provinces, Wang Qishan proposed the concept of an ecological province, aiming to transform Hainan into China's premier resort and year-round garden. At that time, almost all other provincial party secretaries and governors were focused on pursuing GDP growth and industrial development. During this period, those from Hainan Airlines were likely the happiest. Chen Feng, a former subordinate of Wang Qishan from China Agricultural University, took charge of his superior's personal affairs when Qishan became the party secretary of Hainan. Hainan Airlines' strongest asset was its hospitality capabilities, including private jets, various hotels and clubs, and a well-trained, attractive staff. Jiao Jianmin no longer had to worry about the leader's lifestyle. However, fate played another cruel joke. Just 5 months into his tenure, after gaining a basic understanding of Hainan and planning its future, an epidemic thousands of miles away once again altered the course of his life. Although his tenure in Hainan was brief, it completed Wang Qishan's record of leading local governments, making it impossible for anyone to criticize him for lacking experience as a top local official. This was the most significant outcome of his time in Hainan. In April 2003, Wang Qishan was transferred from Hainan to Beijing to serve as the mayor. This time he faced not a familiar financial issue, but a public health crisis unrelated to finance. At that time, Beijing was in turmoil due to a sharp increase in SARS cases. On April 3, the Ministry of Health held a press conference. The then Minister of Health, Zhang Wenkang, stated that China had effectively controlled the SARS epidemic. Subsequent events proved this to be a barefaced lie. On April 4, retired Dr. Jiang Yangyang from the 301 hospital revealed the true extent of the SARS outbreak in Beijing. International opinion was outraged. The Chinese Communist Party faced an unprecedented crisis of trust, both domestically and internationally. The newly appointed Yuan administration was under immense pressure. On April 20, the State Council held a press conference, publicly disclosing the true extent of the SARS situation to the world. Simultaneously, Zhang Wenkang was removed from his post, and Meng Shuinong, then mayor of Beijing, also resigned in response to the crisis. It should be noted that many videos falsely claim Meng Shuinong is the son-in-law of Yao Yilin, but this is a rumor. Meng Shuinong has no connection to Yao Yilin. On his first day in office, Wang Qishan visited the Xinfudadi wholesale market, Chongwenmen vegetable market, and Wang Fujing pharmaceutical building to investigate and address shortages of vegetables, foodstuffs, and medications caused by the SARS outbreak. The following day, the Beijing municipal government issued a directive to legally isolate individuals and locations affected by SARS, thereby cutting off transmission routes. On the third day, he held his first executive meeting as mayor, outlining the city's SARS prevention and control measures. The meeting lasted only 30 minutes. During the meeting, Wang Qishan made a striking remark. The gentleman does not speak of what he finds joyful. Upon the conclusion of the meeting, construction of the Xiaotangshan Hospital began immediately. The project's chief engineer at the time was Liu Jihiwa, then deputy mayor, who later had a public dispute with Guo Wengi. On the 10th day, Wang Qishan attended a press conference and accepted media interviews, skillfully guiding public opinion and alleviating citizens' fears about the SARS epidemic. Under Wang Qishan's leadership, Beijing's SARS prevention and control efforts began to show improvement. On June 8, Beijing reported 0 new SARS cases. On June 24, Wang Qishan's 65th day in office, the World Health Organization removed Beijing from its list of affected areas. However, the challenges facing the mayor were far from over, as he soon faced another major test, preparing for the Olympics. How to make the 2008 Beijing Olympics the best ever. The most pressing issue facing Beijing was also the most watched event in the country. Any mistakes during the Beijing Olympics could have impacted the efforts made. He stated that Beijing was the city with the most global issues, and he was the mayor with the most global problems. From the construction of venues to urban operations, from volunteer recruitment to traffic optimization, from citizen education to Olympic legislation, from security plans to public relations, fortunately, the preparations for the Olympics were completed with a sense of relief. SARS was the first crisis faced by Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao after they took office. The Olympics were the most important political task during Hu Jintao's decade in power, and a highlight of their political careers. As the key figure in both crises, Wang Qishan had numerous opportunities to report directly to and interact with Hu Jintao and other leaders, earning the recognition of national leaders like Hu Jintao. This laid the foundation for his future promotions. While Xi Jinping's achievements were mainly from his tenure as a local official, Wang Qishan's most significant accomplishments were his handling of the 2 major events in Beijing. During his time as Beijing's mayor, Wang Qishan was the second in command. At the time, the Beijing Municipal Party Committee Secretary, Liu Qi, was a member of the Politburo and had decent relationships with both Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao. Liu Qi was nearing retirement and had a somewhat tyrannical style, showing no regard for Wang Qishan. Wang Qishan, however, demonstrated remarkable restraint and respect towards Liu Qi, exhibiting the qualities of a seasoned politician, unlike Bo Xilai during his time in Liaoning. Liu Qi's wife established an investment company that invested in numerous Beijing enterprises, and his son, who worked at China Mobile, was involved in many dealings. Naturally, Wang Qishan strictly prohibited his associates from having deep interactions with the Luo family, avoiding any potential crises. The consequence of this restraint was Before the 17th National Congress, Liu Qi gave Wang Qishan a favorable review, ensuring Wang's smooth promotion to the Politburo and vice premier. His years in Beijing allowed Wang to build a network of talented individuals, many of whom he later utilized during his tenure at the Central Discipline Inspection Commission. For instance, Li Xiaohong, then Secretary General of the Beijing Municipal Government and President of the Beijing Second Boiler Association, was known for his fierce temperament and was highly regarded by Wang. Liu Shiyu, then Deputy Governor of the People's Bank of China, also joined Wang's circle during this time. Lin Boquan and two other individuals, although they did not see eye to eye, both received Wang's approval, along with other execution-focused talents like Xiao Pei and Peng. In 2008, Wang was promoted to Vice Premier of the State Council, overseeing finance, commerce, market regulation, and other areas he was familiar with. His first challenge was the struggling Chinese financial industry amidst the wave of market liberalization. Major Chinese commercial banks had accumulated astronomical amounts of non-performing loans over the years, and financial regulatory reforms were urgently needed. The securities market was also facing a severe storm. People had high hopes for Wang, expecting him to bring innovative changes to the financial sector due to his background in the industry. However, Wang disappointed them. During his 5 years as vice premier, Wang made no significant moves and delivered no memorable speeches. The only thing that stood out was his criticism of city commercial banks' expansion into other regions, as some local banks were eager to expand across provincial borders. By this point, Wang had become a very seasoned politician. He chose this approach because he clearly understood the two situations he faced. One was that the then premier Wen Jiabao was very powerful, and it was safer to be a low-key vice premier when working with such a strong premier. If one interferes too much, speaks out of turn, steals the limelight from Premier Wen, or impinges on the interests of other Politburo Standing Committee members, it is easy to invite resentment. It is better to do less and make fewer mistakes than to do more and make more mistakes. In the upcoming 18th National Congress, the Communist Party will face a leadership transition, and Wang Qishan himself will face competition for a promotion to the Politburo Standing Committee. This competition is not about achievements, but about gaining the support of the political heavyweights of the time and minimizing vulnerabilities. As for seniority and political achievements, Wang Qishan has held 3 ministerial-level positions and fought several tough battles. Unfortunately, competitors like Bo Xilai and Wang Yang, who loved to steal the limelight, did not understand this simple truth. People like Li Yuanshao did not even understand who the big boss was, blindly following the directives of Ling Zhihui in arranging personnel and work. They did not recommend people close to Xi Jinping, much like a web novel, which is the secret to their failure to be promoted to the Politburo Standing Committee. Wang Qishan was clearly a step ahead of them. At that time, among the big shots who had a say in the 18th National Congress, the first was Jiang Zemin, and the second was Hu Jintao. Others with significant influence included Lai Peng, Zhu Rongji, Zhang Qinghong, and Wen Jiabao. They could influence Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao. Among these big shots, Li Peng and Yao Yilin were political allies, and Li Xiaolin called Wang Qishan her brother-in-law, so their relationship was obvious. Zhu Rongji had always been a mentor to Wang Qishan, and Zhu Rongji's son, Zhu Yunlai, was still working in the central government, providing considerable support to Wang Qishan. As the spiritual leader of the princeling faction, Zhang Qinghong had always been quite supportive of Wang Qishan. Wang Qishan quietly strengthened his work with a few key individuals, regularly reporting to the retired Jiang Zemin. In recent years, Jiang Zemin's grandson, Jiang Zhisheng, had just established Banyan capital Dai. Wang Qishan frequently went out of his way to call Xiao Jiang to discuss private entrepreneurial matters. He also often personally helped coordinate approvals for projects invested in by Boyu Capital. Boyu Capital's earliest investment, Raisheng tax-free shopping, often required approvals from the Ministry of Commerce and the Customs. Wang Qishan specifically instructed his secretary, Zhao Liang, to prioritize handling Xiao Jiang's matters. To Xiao Jiang, Wang Qishan was like a trusted family member, a reliable uncle who could always help coordinate things. Through his efforts, Xiao Jiang transitioned from being on the periphery of Jiang Zemin's circle to becoming a core member of the Jiang faction, gaining Jiang Zemin's high recognition. Jiang Zemin was also the mastermind behind the 18th Party Congress. Secondly, Wang Qishan frequently accompanied Hu Jintao on inspections and visits abroad. Public news shows that during Hu Jintao's inspections and foreign visits over 5 years, Wang Qishan was the most frequent accompanying vice premier. From the G20 summit to the APEC meeting, from media interviews to day-long talks, Wang Qishan was always by Hu Jintao's side, appearing extremely humble. On the official plane and during visit intervals, Wang Qishan had ample time to interact with Hu Jintao. To have common ground with Hu Jintao's wife, Liu Yongqing, he often set aside time to watch Korean dramas, charming the elderly lady so much that she would smile broadly whenever she saw him. At that time, Wang Qishan's relationship with Hu Jintao was similar to Liu's later relationship with Xi Jinping. Thirdly, Wang Qishan focused on public relations with Wen Jiabao. Yao Yilin, who had served as the director of the General Office of the Communist Party of China, was Wen Jiabao's superior in the central government. As members of the State Council's leadership, Wang Qishan had ample opportunities to interact with Wen Jiabao. In his work, Wang Qishan highly cooperated with Wen Jiabao, rarely expressing his own opinions or vetoing projects. He frequently met with Wen Jiabao's wife, Zhang Peili's business partner, Wang Wei, every 2 to 3 weeks to chat. Each session lasted 2 or 3 hours, during which Wang Qishan would learn about Wen Jiabao's activities and thoughts through Wang Yang, and convey his own goodwill to Wen Jiabao. During his tenure as vice premier, Wang Qishan spent most of his time managing relationships with several senior officials and their families, earning recognition from all parties. Regardless of how the elders related to each other, they all saw Wang Qishan as one of their own, someone who could safeguard their family's interests in the future. Therefore, Wang Qishan's promotion to the Politburo Standing Committee at the 18th Party Congress was not inevitable. It involved much unseen effort and maneuvering. Prior to this, Wang Qishan had not provided much assistance to Yan'an Group. The company's development was supported by the Hainan provincial government, the Ministry of State Security, and China Development Bank Gadi. One year, when other departments raided Yan'an Group to arrest people, the Ministry of State Security's Director Zhang personally led a team to rescue them on the spot. Before this incident, Yan'an Group was not Wang Qishan's personal domain. He was just one of several patrons of the company. In recent years, as Wang Qishan began overseeing financial work, Yan'an Group significantly expanded its collaboration with banks, securing support from several major state-owned banks. It was then that the association between Wang Qishan and Yan'an Group became more apparent. In 2012, during the 18th Party Congress, Wang Qishan lived up to expectations and was elected to the Politburo Standing Committee. However, his position was not the anticipated first-ranked vice premier, but the secretary of the Central Discipline Inspection Commission. The reason he did not become the first-ranked vice premier was that this role, while having some authority within the Politburo Standing Committee, lacks ultimate decision-making power. It is a position that requires hard work and involves party-building duties for the premier. Both Zhang Gaoli and Wang Qishan were qualified for this role. However, at that time, Xi Jinping needed a strong and visionary secretary of the Central Discipline Inspection Commission to support him. A historic, unprecedented political struggle against corruption was launched. Zhang Gaoli was no longer suited for his position. The top leaders from the 18th Party Congress largely followed the old boss's layout, but in terms of specific personnel assignments, they still needed to consult with Xi Jinping's opinions. At 41 Ohaidai, Ping-Anli, Section District, Beijing, there is no house number, and the telecom system's directory assistance also has no phone number registered. The entire compound is surrounded by a gray brick wall over 4 meters high and more than 1 meter thick. Despite the no-entry sign, it is strictly guarded by fully uniformed soldiers. This is where the institution that strikes fear into the hearts of corrupt officials and the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection's East Yard are located. After the 18th Party Congress, the CCDE swiftly initiated an unprecedented anti-corruption campaign. This campaign was meticulously planned by Xi Jinping and his allies, including Wang Qishan, and had a clear roadmap from the start. Why launch this anti-corruption campaign? First, the public universally detests corruption, and fighting it can garner public support and enhance the prestige of Xi Jinping and the new leadership. Second, it can eliminate a significant number of political rivals, creating space for allies. Third, it can expose the weaknesses of competitors, forcing them to concede in high-level power struggles and effectively deterring them. By removing these pests, it can extend the life of the Communist Party. It's a win-win situation. This movement can be said to be the largest anti-corruption campaign in the history of the Communist Party, and even in Chinese history. In terms of the rank of officials investigated, it reached as high as the Politburo Standing Committee member Zhou Yongkang, breaking the taboo of not targeting standing committee members since the reform and opening up, and serving as a stark warning. In terms of impact, it dealt with high-profile officials like Ling Jihua and Sun Zhengkai. In terms of sensitivity, it targeted highly sensitive military leaders like Guo Boxiang and Xu Kaihu. In terms of numbers, over 400 officials at the vice-ministerial level and above were investigated, accounting for more than 20% of all current employees. Xi Jinping and Wang Qishan did not adopt the traditional CCP approach of peeling the onion from the outside in, starting with the periphery and then the center and tackling easier cases first. Instead, they employed a strategy of central breakthrough, starting directly with the highest profile case in the south, that of Zhou Yongkang. Among these, the Zhou Yongkang case and another planned case were both personally directed and overseen by Wang Qishan. While handling these cases, Wang Qishan continuously innovated, reforming the massive Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CDI. One key area was personnel deployment. At the time, a significant number of CCDI officials were severely corrupted. For mid-level personnel, Wang Qishan, through his trusted aides, conducted extensive inquiries and investigations, categorizing them into several groups. One group had serious issues and was gradually marginalized, with problems addressed as they were discovered. Another group was suspected of issues and either placed under observation or transferred to clean departments. The third group had minor issues and could continue to be utilized. At this time, the Central Discipline Inspection Commission maintained a structure of 1 leader and 8 deputies. Wang Qishan's deputies were Zhao Hongzhu, Huang Shuxian, Li Yufu, Du Jinchai, Wu Yuliang, Chen Jun, Chen Venqing, and Yang Xiaodu. Among them, the second-in-command, Zhao Hongzhu, also served as a secretary of the Central Secretariat and was Xi Jinping's ally. Yang Xiaodu was also aligned with Xi Jinping. Huang Shuxian concurrently served as the Minister of the Supervision Department and was affiliated with the Youth League faction. Chen Wenqing was recommended by Hu Jintao and later aligned with Xi Jinping. Du Jinchai came from the military's disciplinary commission. Li Yufu and Wu Yuliang were longtime CCDI officials. At the deputy secretary level, Wang Qishan did not have his own people. These individuals were not immediately replaceable, so Wang had to introduce his own trusted personnel to build his operational team at the operational level. Lei Xiaohong, the Secretary General of Beijing Qishan, was reassigned to the position of Director of the Inspection Office. Dong Hong, who had followed him since Guangdong, was appointed as the group leader of the inspection team. Xiao Pei, the director of the Beijing Cultural Bureau, was appointed as the director of the Propaganda Department of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CZED-TI. Kui Peng, the director of the Tiananmen Management Committee, was appointed as the Deputy Secretary General of the CCDE and the Director of the Bureau of General Affairs. Zhao Liang, the Personal Secretary, was appointed as the Director of the Organization Department of the CCDI. Secondly, there was an organizational reform. Originally, the CCDI had only 8 inspection departments, each responsible for inspecting many departments or provinces, making their power too concentrated and precise inspection impossible. Meanwhile, internal inspection had only 1 department, making it too weak. Wang Qishan added 4 more inspection departments, redistributed the original inspection scopes, and increased the number of business personnel directly engaged in inspection by more than 100. A department for supervising officials was established to strengthen internal inspection capabilities. Newly established were the Propaganda Department and the Organization Department. One was to demystify the CZE and the other was to strengthen the system's personnel allocation. The 12 large cities' divisions of labor after adjustment were as follows. One city was linked with units under the Ministry of Education, the judicial and law enforcement sectors, and the propaganda departments. 2 cities were linked with national ministries and commissions. 4 cities were linked with financial regulatory departments and financial enterprises. 5 cities were linked with the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission and Central Enterprises. 6 to 12 cities were linked with various provinces and municipalities. Thirdly, the inspection system was significantly strengthened. Previously, the inspection system had a narrow coverage, and the fixed inspection team leaders had caused many problems. After the 18th National Congress, Qishan greatly increased the intensity of inspections, using them as the main channel for discovering case leads. The coverage of inspections was greatly expanded, achieving a thorough inspection of all central government-managed units within 5 years. Measures such as granting authority for each inspection, not fixing inspection team leaders, and implementing specialized inspections were taken. Among the cases handled after the 18th National Congress, over half of the leads came from inspections. Notably, several high-ranking officials, such as Yi Rong, Wang Min, and Huang Xingguo were exposed, along with major corruption cases in Shaanxi, the election fraud in Hanjiang, Hunan, the vote-buying scandal in Nanchang, Sichuan, and the vote-buying scandal in Liaoning. The establishment of monitoring commissions in these cities addressed previous institutional shortcomings. In simple terms, the reform of the monitoring system solved the issue of a narrow monitoring scope, transitioning from overseeing narrow government functions to broad government functions, filling 2 gaps. First, previously the monitoring targets were mainly government agencies, their civil servants, and personnel appointed by government agencies, essentially narrow government functions. After the reform, the oversight extends to broad government functions, regardless of the sign on the door, whether it's black text on a white background or red text on a white background. All are people's governments and must be subject to oversight. Second, previously, there was a significant gap between the law and enforcement, with inadequate supervision of public officials exercising public power, leading to situations where crimes were managed, but violations went unchecked. After the reform, the monitoring commissions investigate both legal violations and criminal offenses related to official duties. Third, the monitoring commissions absorbed the anti-corruption functions of the procuradorates, leaving the procuradorates with only the authority to approve arrests. The Ministry of Public Security launched the Skynet operation, coordinating with over a dozen ministries to pursue fugitives, including the 100 Red Notices operation, extending the reach of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection internationally. After 5 years of anti-corruption efforts, Wang Qishan became the second most influential figure in the Politburo Standing Committee of the 18th Party Congress, second only to Xi Jinping, and one of the most formidable anti-corruption figures in Chinese history. Wang Qishan's influence and discourse power significantly increased, making the Wang faction the second largest, behind only the Xi faction. The conflict between Guo Wengui and Wang Qishan is essentially a symmetrical war. Guo, as an ordinary citizen, naturally garners sympathy and trust from many people. Wang, on the other hand, cannot respond directly and must resort to indirect methods. A significant portion of Guo's revelations are actually true reflections of Wang's situation, particularly his ties to Ena Group, which are widely known among Beijing's elite, thereby enhancing the credibility of Guo's claims. Initially, Wang underestimated Guo. His team employed various ineffectual measures to counter Guo's leaks, such as having cakes in magazine, Su Guo in Hong Kong, enlisting Guo's former allies, Ma Xianhe and Q Long, to defame him, and fabricating stories about Guo's alleged sexual assaults and mistreatment of employees. They even invented a character to explain the NA Group saga. Wang also utilized Sun Lijun through Interpol and the shareholders of the Venetian Macau, including Wayne, to lobby the U.S. government in an attempt to extradite Guo. When these efforts failed to achieve either Guo's extradition or the alleviation of domestic suspicions, public opinion began to escalate. Wang panicked, and together with Meng Jianzhu, dispatched Liu Yanping from the Ministry of State Security to the U.S. to negotiate with Guo, hoping to secure a ceasefire. Regardless of the surface appearance of their discussions, both parties achieved their objectives. Guo's children were released to the U.S., and subsequently, Guo refrained from releasing any substantial damaging information about Wang. His revelations became increasingly watered down and focused more on promoting his anti-CCP crusade. However, by this point it was already too late. Guo's disclosures had already reached Xi Jinping through internal channels. In his family's past, a company abroad once offered Dong Hong over $30 billion. His security chief and secretary, Chen Zhen, was stripped of all benefits and forcibly reassigned after leaking crucial information. His personal assistant from his time at the Bank of China, Tian Huiyu, also fell from grace. This time, Tian Huiyu was implicated again. Previously, he had been detained for several days before Qishan intervened to secure his release. Seeing no future in his career, this individual targeted the China Merchants Bank platform and orchestrated a surprise takeover of the bank shareholders, catching the unsuspecting Ma off guard. He always fancied himself clever, profiting not only from favors, but also from investments in Ningdi Times, earning several $billion cachi. Sports Bureau Director Gao Zhongwen, China Banking Regulatory Commission, Vice Chairman Kai Esheng, and People's Bank of China Vice Governor Fan Yifei, among other associates, successively fell. Hubei Provincial Party Secretary Jiang Kaoliang, Guangzhou Municipal Party Secretary Zhang Shuo, and the Vice Minister of Agriculture all ended their political careers in disgrace. Gansu Provincial Party Secretary Lin Bo and others are also under investigation. Former Vice President of Industrial and Commercial Bank of China Zhang Hongli, former Chairman of Guangdong Development Bank Dong Jinyayu, and Huayuan Real Estate Chairman Rin Zhenqiang, these peripheral figures have emerged, and Qishan no longer has the power to protect them. His nephew-in-law, Hong Ning, once a prominent figure in the investment banking world, quietly retired from Goldman Sachs, and now resides in a small insurance company under Tencent. Only the diligent secretary Zhou Liang and the literary secretary Mia Qingwang remain unscathed. The once bustling Qishan residence has finally become deserted. Starting with Dong Hong's issues, Wang Qishan began sending letter after letter to Xi Jinping expressing his remorse. During the Boao Forum, he publicly declared himself Xi Jinping's gravedigger in front of the world. Faced with this old friend from 40 years ago, Xi Jinping could not bring himself to act. The era of Wang Qishan.